hello to everyone. It's me once again, Yumi, and welcome to Creative Talks with Scale Experts. Joining us today once again is the founder and CEO of Scale Experts. She has more than 15 years of experience in the BPO industry and has helped numerous clients in the recruitment and customer service sectors to scale their business. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Miss Pam Baluyo.
Hello.
And our special guest for today is top 15 most influential Filipino women on LinkedIn, top 10 most inspiring Filipinos on LinkedIn, top 100 Filipinos on LinkedIn for 2020 and 2021, a trauma and abuse survivor, mental health professional focused on adult psychotherapy, currently taking her doctorate degree in the clinical psychology at the University of Santo Tomas, registered psychologist, trauma therapist, and organizational behavior consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Charlene Lucas.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction, Yumi. And thank you so much, Pam, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a
Ah,
pleasure. It's a pleasure talaga, Doc Charlene. How are you? I
I'm
heard you're
doing
very
great.
busy.
Again, sorry.
I know you're very busy, but thank you so much for allowing us to guest you in our podcast.
It's my pleasure. Basta sa kababaihan, no? Game tayo dyan.
Yeah, yeah. So, Miss Doc Charlene, I just wanted to ask, no, parang this is the theme for this year is break the bias. So,
Mhm.
before we talk about that breaking the bias and everything, I just wanted to ask, how did you become a psychologist? How did you start as one?
How did I start?
Oh.
Actually, I just started when the start of the pandemic. Doon lang talaga ako nagsimula as a clinical psychologist attending to mental health of the people. But on my 15 years of career since I graduated college, I've been in the industrial field na. So industrial field meaning in human resources. Still psychology, but not as working with clients who has mental issues. So, iyon.
Wow, wow. So that's it. That's interesting, And in all those, I mean, during the pandemic, was there a rise in uh people asking or seeking for mental health support?
Yes, actually, there is a really big rise, and up to now, it's still parang ongoing, rising. So most of my clients, no, before when it start ng pandemic, konti-konti lang. Padami
Mm-hmm.
siya ng padami, but right now, it's like meron ako mga clients na even if naka 10 sessions na sila, they're still going on sessions with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think mental health right now, para ba binibigyan na siya ng talagang importansya. Minsan nga kahit simpleng problema lang, paano ba ako magdidesisyon sa boyfriend ko? Iko-consult pa talaga sa akin.
Talaga? I didn't
Yes.
know. May ganun na.
May gano'n. Okay, tapos hindi ko parang medyo naguguluhan ako sa takbo ng buhay ko ngayon. Ano bang gagawin ko? To tayo, girl. Samantalang okay na siya with her trauma and everything. But they para bang it's a bit of check up na lang sa doktor. Dok, may masakit sa akin na konti, then they'll go to the psychologist. That's what my usual clients is right now. They see the importance.
was it
Well,
something that you really wanted to do, Doc? I mean, gusto mo ba yung ginagawa mo na yun or something inspired you to be a psychologist, parang ganun?
Well, ever since when I was college, dream ko na talaga to be a clinical psychologist. But the thing is, during my time, hindi ko na sabihin kung kailan, mahala tayo ina, I'm just kidding. Back in 2000, early 2000, no? Okay, hindi ganun kaboom ang mental health. And mental health is a taboo topic. Let's say, yung opportunities during that time for mental health practitioner is not as good as now. So that's why I went to industrial psychology. But when I actually had this parang midlife crisis, na para bang I want to really be a psychologist, parang doon ako hinahatak, no? And sakto, once I got my license, I passed 2019. And then when I met my mentor, and then come pandemic, tuloy-tuloy na siya. So, yun.
Wow. So was there any I just wanted to like and it intrigued me. Was there any uh instance, or was there any story that really like impacted you as a therapist, even before the pandemic, and when you were starting your journey as a clinical psychologist? Was there any case that really like stunned you, hindi mo siya malimutan?
Why I venture in psychology is my mom. That's my number one, not necessarily inspiration, but doon ako humugot na bakit ko to pinili. Bakit ako naging psychologist, or bakit psychology nung college ako.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom is suffering from schizophrenia.
Oh.
So, yes. When I was young, nung naghiwalay sila ng mother and father ko,
Oo.
and then his brother, the one na closest sa kanya, committed suicide, and then naghiwalay yung parents niya,
Oh.
and then doon siya parang nagkaroon ng mental breakdown to the point of naging paranoid schizophrenic siya. And right now, she's still taking medication.
How was
And
it? How was it? I mean, how difficult is it to, to deal with someone with schizophrenia in the family?
well, I didn't actually live with my mom because I lived with my father dahil nung naghiwalay sila. But
Mm-mm.
the thing is, para bang 3 times ako nag-approach sa mom ko, and 3 times I was rejected by her. Yes, because
Wow.
she doesn't want to yung maalala, no, kung bakit parang nangyari. Parang ako yung paalala nung mga
Mm-hmm.
masasakit na yugto ng buhay nun sa kanya. So even if I approach her 3 times, wanting to be with my mom, wanting to understand her, no, and I even told her that this is what I've become now. She still
Mm-hmm.
rejected me. So it hurts, but I understand. Up to now, she's still taking her medication.
Wow. And ang sakit na, no, no. It's really hard. I can relate with you on that, kasi trauma is something that you can't really do away with. And like one kaya sabi ko nga, this podcast would be special because this is something that will deal with mental health, and not people that I know knows that I also went through that, like domestic abuse with my first husband. Na alam mo yon, yung trauma of you having to deal with, andun yung shame, andun din yung parang you have to ask yourself, why did this happen? Did I allow this to happen? Was it circumstantial that it happened? And you would wonder whether you did the right decision of marrying that guy and not. Although it's different from your mom, but still, it's not an easy path to deal with. And with that, Doc, was there any like instance in your life na parang um you had that same question that, am I doing it right? Is this the right path? Kasi syempre, you can't help but, be empathic to the women that you're dealing with the trauma. How was it? How was it?
So at first, hindi ko talaga parang pinili yung path ng trauma and abuse. Ang ano
Mm-hmm.
ko lang is to help people with their mental health, and then still an organizational psychologist. But when I met my mentor, and I also had some trauma in my past, I was actually abused when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
So before I heal my clients, I need to heal first. And then when I met my mentor, she's a trauma expert, psychotrauma expert. Then doon ako parang alam mo yung parang may nagbukas na
Uh-huh.
na na liwanag sa na parang, uy, this is something very interesting. And
Uh-uh.
when I encountered my first client, which is also a victim of domestic abuse or domestic violence, na yung parang papatay na siya ng asawa niya, yung gano'n. And then
Mm-mm.
when I able to really help that person,
Mm-mm.
doon ko na ano yung parang calling na, I think this is my path. And kasi nagtuloy-tuloy na siya.
Wow, that's an amazing advocacy. So, Was I mean, tell us more about that. I mean, I'm pretty sure people would want to know how they're going to, how they're going to reach out for that kind of, like, especially women. Ang daming babae na sa suffer from mental illness, mental abuse.
So for women who were victims of abuse, of either sexual, physical, or emotional abuse, number one is to take courage to for yourself to heal. Kasi importante kasi is we have determination. It's like lahat ng tao is just a support. Okay, support lang sa'yo, but you yourself is the driver of your life. So number one is to take courage that if you don't want your situation right now, then take courage to seek help, right?
Mhm.
And also be determined to heal. Kasi kalimitan na mga clients ko din, when they para bang encountered or they get face to face doon sa kinakatakutan nila, they were shamed about, they back out.
Mm-mm.
But if they want to heal, they need to face their pain head on, the reality of their situation, that they are being abused, they are being beaten, they are being violated.
Mm-mm.
Because most women, they paint, or most people who were victim of that, they paint reality with their fantasies na baka magbago pa.
Yeah. Yeah, bakit nga gano'n? Bakit nga
Yon.
gano'n? I wanna ask myself, ano, why did I let it happen for quite some time? And then, yun nga, I pa kinda like, baka magbago pa. And I encountered a woman like that na andun yung baka magbago pa. That's why she's sticking with her boyfriend, live-in partner at the time. So, why? Why do you think may ganong babae?
Well, it's not just only women, but people per se,
Oo.
because of the trauma that they had in the past. It could be, let's say, one is they saw violence also at home. So when you saw violence at home, you also get to repeat that. Yung para bang you re-traumatize yourself because yung namulat sa'yo, okay lang pala yung gano'n. That
Ah.
could be one aspect. Now, second is, you could be, let's say, manipulated by the person. Right? Yung parang, if you're already having this battered wife syndrome, alam mo yung cycle,
Mm-mm.
yung para bang okay, mag-aaway, tapos sasaktan ka, tapos ilalabang ka, okay naman kayo ulit, tapos, and then it repeats.
Mhm.
So to the point na parang nakot ka na. But as what I'm saying, the women should really love themselves and have this determination and courage, no, to really heal. And when they say na para bang baka pwedeng magbago pa, yes,
Mhm.
wala naman akong ano na pwedeng magbago ang isang tao.
Yeah.
Pero not to the point na nasasaktan ka na talaga. Hayaan mo siya magbago on his own, na away from you.
Mhm.
But work on yourself because you don't deserve that. You don't deserve to be treated, no, na para bang with disrespect. So you deserve
True.
to be treated more.
And also, I mean, Dr. Lucas, I have several friends na ang reason nila is they don't have anywhere else to go to. Pag iniwan nila yung partner nila na nambubugbog sa kanila, wala sila mapupuntahan. Magugutom sila. How can they feed their
Yeah,
children? Parang ganon. So, those are most of the reasons then why they cannot leave their abusive partner.
there's always a choice. And staying there is a choice as well. Yun.
Yeah.
So, if they say na magugutom sila, I usually say to women, you are already old enough to take care of yourself, to find a job, whatever the job is, to go back to your parents, to ask help for your friends, no, for you to survive. Kasi ang mostly sinasabi ko is, hanggang kailan ka magtatagal dyan?
Okay.
Hanggat kung sakaling ano ka na, hanggang saan tingin mo pupunta yan? So mas importante pa ba yung trabaho kaysa sa buhay mo at buhay ng mga anak mo? You choose.
Yeah.
So there's always a way. If we
Okay.
just let's say open our eyes, address the fear, and then seek help.
Was there any instance, Doc, na you encountered a woman who refuses or tries to hide that, and you can already like detect that this person is in danger, this person needs psychological and even medical help, but this person is still in the denial stage, how would you approach this person? Like you could see the telltale signs of being abused, and yet this person is kumbaga, she's trying to live her life as if that's just part of her life. It you know, pretending to be happy when you know that there is already an abuse.
When I approach that kind of women, I usually come strong. When I
Mm-hmm,
say strong, I tell them that apologies if I'm coming too strong to you because I need to wake you up.
mm-hmm.
Meron ako isang client na pipiliin pa niya na bumili ng barel para protektahan ng sarili niya kaysa hiwalayan ng asawa niya.
What?
So parang, yes, yes. Parang sabi ko sa kanya, so saan mo gustong mapunta yung sitwasyon mo?
Mm-mm,
Because she's still in denial of yung parang she's already in the abusive stage, an abusive relationship. Hindi niya maiwala yung asawa niya because yung parang reason that is not, parang hindi na siya makatotohanan.
mm-hmm.
Kasi kung ano yung sasabihin ng pamilya niya, ano yung sabihin ng mga co-workers niya, ano yung sabihin ng mga, and all those things. And sabi ko, hindi naman yung pamilya mo ang nakikisama dun sa tao, kundi ikaw. So mas pipiliin mo pa na bibili ka ng barel kaysa hihiwalayan mo yung asawa mo. Think about it.
Oo. It's kind of ridiculous indeed. But
Yes.
but sometimes yun nga eh, that's the problem with some women. I think it's because of the notion that some things can work out in the end. Yun din ang shame and regarding that, kasi one thing that I told you before this podcast, di ba, Doc? Remember that I told you I was in an abusive relationship with my ex-husband doon. And while I'm very happy with my forever, sana ito na. I know naman, dama ko siya. I'm happy about it. But, you know, that time, 90s, I don't have the support. I don't know where to seek support. And, you know, I went on to doing just like kung ano lang yung makita ko with whatever materials that can help me go through it, pero there was also like a dark path. um do you think that culture, our Filipino culture, can also attribute to this kind of, you know, lack of support in mental health?
Yes, I think so. Especially nung mga sinaunang panahon, no?
Oo.
Mga before pandemic, no?
Mm-mm.
Um, because mental health is a taboo-topic. Yung parang arte lang yan, drama lang yan, hindi totoo yan. Okay? Because
Yes.
we don't see the wounds eh. But dama mo siya. Dama mo siya. And at the same time, walang nagre-reach out to women.
Mm-mm.
Okay? That you are already being violated, no? Kung kailangan mo ng tulong, walang although there are some agencies but it's not as prominent as now.
Mm-mm.
And at the same time, I actually have this, yung mga paniniwala nung dati,
Yeah.
na away mag-asawa lang yan,
Yes.
patawarin mo na, ganyan
Oo.
talaga pag nag-aasawa. I have this one client na binubugbog na siya ng asawa niya. At ang sinabi sa kanya ng lola niya, ganyan talaga pag nag-aasawa.
Oo.
Mag,
I,
yeah,
I heard that.
magtiis ka. So parang, ha?
Oo. I heard that line. It's because asawa mo na yan, pagtiyagaan mo, you have to
No.
deal with it. Andiyan pa ikaw sisisihin. Kasalanan mo yan, pinili mo yan.
Yan.
Those were the words. And what can you say about those people who tell these things? Sa mga nakikinig sa atin ngayon sa podcast na ayaw man nilang aminin but they gave that kind of advice.
Number one is to stop that. To stop that giving that advice. But of course, empower the person as well.
Mm-mm,
Okay? That she can choose, no?
mm-mm,
Whatever she wants to choose. Because for us psychologists, even if I already see that the person na para bang getting into this abusive relationship, she
mm-mm,
needs to decide for herself. I'm just giving her options and I'm just making her see the reality. But in the end, she needs to decide. Kasi mahirap tulungan ng tao, ayaw tulungan ang sarili niya. Now, if you have given everything,
mm-mm.
ito na ang reality ng sitwasyon mo at ayaw pa niya, wala na akong magagawa doon.
Yeah. So no matter how, if the
Yes.
woman herself that does not wish to be rescued, ika nga.
Yes. Kahit nakataking ko pa siya dun sa relationship na yon, okay,
Mm,
pag ayaw niya talagang kumawala, wala. But that's, of course, you can just help up to the extent na makakaya.
good.
May question lang ako, Doc. Mostly kasi ng mga nag-i-stay sa abusive relationship yung mahal ko kasi, I cannot lose that person kasi mahal ko, hindi ko kaya nang wala siya.
Yeah.
Ano yung magandang ano, wake up call dun sa tao na yun para matauhan siya
Oo,
that
I
he's
heard that love
already
is blind thing, eh. Oo, eh.
So,
Oo, 'di ba?
ano yung magandang, wake up call to that person para ma-realize niya na it's already not a healthy relationship, parang gano'n.
Yeah.
Ang unang tanong ko dyan, is it really love or is it attachment? Kasi
Yeah.
when you say love, love is
Hmm.
to liberate. Love is to give,
Oo.
right? And kapag dinidisrespect ka na o binabastos ka na, don't you think you also deserve that love
Mm,
sa sarili mo para hindi ka, paulit-ulit na saktan ng tao na yan? And
mm,
yes, I would agree that love is hard work, pero not to the point of disrespecting and hurting each other to the point of being abusive.
mm.
Right? So, if it is really love, hindi ba dapat ibigay mo muna yan sa sarili mo bago mo yan ibigay dun sa tao na yan?
Wow. Yeah, that's true. I have a question naman sa'yo, Doc, regarding naman the abuser. I mean, syempre, while we know that sometimes we paint these abusers as ruthless, walang puso, but profiling them, what are the usual things na when you talk with the women who have been abused and when they describe their abuser, was there any pattern that you could see sa face ng abuser? Like, do they have like a similar, like, unhappy childhood? How would you describe them?
Natumbok mo pa. Unhappy childhood. So usually it happens or it starts at home.
Mm-hmm,
If the perpetrator did not see a good home, a healthy home, especially, and also the big women who were victims of abuse.
mm-hmm.
Kasi nakita mo na sa bahay ginagawa ng nanay at tatay mo.
Oo.
So you will think that it's okay. And
Mm.
there are times that you're also gonna act it out to your
Because you thought,
partner
okay.
because you thought it's okay. So yun ang kalimitan. I actually had counseled perpetrators as well,
Mm-mm.
or men or women who hurt their partners, whether
Yeah.
it's physical or sexual. And
Mm.
common denominator, unhappy childhood. Hindi nabigyan ng tamang pag-aalaga at atensyon ng magulang.
Yeah.
So, yun. And yung
Y-
binubuhos nila sa ibang tao.
wow.
And
Yeah.
also, nakikita din nila sa father side or father nila na binubugbog yung mother nila. Na parang sabi mo nga kanina, Doc, naging ano na siya, naging common, naging normal na sa kanya yon.
Yes.
Would you be able to identify right away from how this person acts, from how this person talks, that this person is actually an abuser or the abused? Would there be any signs that a woman can tell, or the woman should at least like look out for when entering into a relationship?
Kasi tayo mga babae, malakas ang gut feel natin.
Mm-mm,
Okay? But make it a point that you are in touch with your instinct.
mm-mm,
Kasi that is your guide. That is your, let's say, sabihin natin. And also, men, all people that are in touch with themselves, pag nakakakita ka na ng red flags or warning signs, kasi una
mm.
yan sasabihan ka ng mga demeaning words. Let's say, ang
Yeah.
biyo mo naman, tanga, mga ganon.
Mm-mm.
Umpisa pa lang yan sa ganon. And then susunod, minumura ka na,
Yeah.
okay? And then susunod niyan, hahagisan ka na ng gamit, and
Oo.
so on and so forth. If a person does not respect your boundaries, okay, then that's something that you need to watch out for. But of course, address it first.
Yeah.
Okay? address it first. I feel I'm disrespected. I feel you're crossing my boundaries, right? Now, if the person does not change that,
Mhm.
okay, or does not acknowledge that, then it's time for you to think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's very true, no? If like couples do not talk about their boundaries, do not talk about you hurt me, I felt disrespected in that manner, and that the other person does not acknowledge, you'd know that there's something wrong, eh. But there, if there is like a healthy dialogue of, yeah, I acknowledge that, but ito rin minsan you talk like this, and I think that it really, I could say that that one is a healthy relationship kasi you'll be able to talk out of it, you'll be able to have a compromise what to do on the next time para it won't happen again. And I think that's a very, I think couples, partners should be able to do. I think even your relationship with other people. I mean, di ba?
Yes.
If you can't accept the feedback that was given to you, then there's something wrong with you as well because you can't accept that. And I think communication is a very important key sa mga relationships. With the trauma, doc, was there like, were there any, how long, I mean, was there any, is there any timetable for a woman to be healed from their trauma?
So before I answer that, Pam, no, balik ako ng konti.
Oo.
So it's not also how we say it's what we say, or it's not
Oo.
only what we say, it's how we
How
say
we
it.
say it.
There are times that we say our feedbacks na
Mm.
medyo nakakasakit din dun sa tao.
Mm.
Alright? So it goes two ways. Like
Mm.
you set your boundaries in a respectful way, and you say your feedback in a respectful way. As long as in your best intention.
Mhm.
Okay? So, and you're right, dapat may dialogue yan. Now, um, when it comes dun sa timetable,
Mhm.
there's kanya-kanya kasi yan eh. Parang walang, at saka ang sugat natin iba-iba ng
Yeah.
lalim. Okay? At iba-iba din tayo ng pagtanggap on how are we accepting the pain of our life, yung mga naging sakit sa buhay natin. Pero ang
Mm.
importante is we constantly working on it, or
Mm.
constantly acknowledging that this is something that I need to work on, so
Mm.
that it won't affect your relationships.
Mm.
Now, what I do specifically to my clients is I only neutralize their trauma and make them understand na yung mga sitwasyon sa buhay nila, it happened, okay? Because hindi lang sila yung may problema. It's,
Mm.
when you say kasi trauma, it's a silent epidemic. Matagal na yan.
Yeah.
Matagal na yan. And it's also transgenerational. When I say transgenerational, napasa mo sa lolo't lola mo, no? Yung sa gera, tapos
Mm.
mainit ang ulo sa'yo, lagi kang pinapalo ng bata, tapos ngayon, pagtanda mo, pinapalo mo ulit yung anak mo,
Mm.
which is you thought it's alright.
Mm.
Okay, but it's causing damage or emotional damage to the kid.
Mm.
So making them understand that we are all the same, we're all human,
Yeah.
right? Ang importante is their relationship, no, their relationship with themselves and with others is not as affected or hindi siya damaging as before.
Mm.
But when it comes to really healing, and when you say healing, it's forgiveness, not
Mm.
only forgiving that other person but forgiving yourself. It will really take time.
It will. It
At
really
hindi siya
takes time.
minamadali.
Ikaw,
Yon.
Miss Pam, how long did it take for you to heal?
Ang bigat na question. Ang bigat na question yan. Kasi honestly, if I'm going to talk about my life, my journey from the time that I broke off with my ex that was in 1995, I went into a series of relationships, eh. Known and unknown to my parents, to my siblings, and to to some of my friends. They didn't know. Uy, I went into, I went into those one night stands. I went into just like doing just drinking sprees. I forgot that I have an obligation to my kids, and I know my two kids at the time were greatly affected by it. And until now, I still carry that burden na it haunts me because Kako, if I had that help way back, then probably my kids won't be as affected as they are right now. Kasi they are affected. Eh. No, it may not be uh, it may not be evident from other people, but they were affected. My daughter, parang she snapped when she went into depression, especially baga when nagsunod-sunod her journey during her college life, her love life at that time, the death of my sister who was her second mom, that really impacted her a lot. Yung sa akin then it really took time. I think even when I went into the relationship 10 years after with my husband now, at the early years of our relationship, andun yung nagma-manifest siya. And even during I mean our early marriage, nagma-manifest siya na I didn't know that I had that I didn't know that the trauma was there, and I was like breaking down and really breaking down. Like it's like a panic attack, anxiety attack, that I would cower in a corner, nanginginig yung buong katawan ko. It happened. It happened to me not once, not twice. And unfortunately, my husband had to experience alam mo yon, person who doesn't know how to deal with this because he never really encountered any, bad trauma in his life. And suddenly this person, yung pinakamamahal mo, you're like cowering in the corner and trying to like hurt herself. Diba? I know I gave my husband that scare, and I know I'm really sorry for him na he had to encounter that. Matagal eh. And I would say, kahit sabihin natin 10 years, hindi pa rin siya nawawala. Siguro it may not be as bad as before. And I could say that the last time kasi I saw my ex was in 2012, 2013. I think that I had to confront him about our son na nagkakaroon din ng issues kasi he just wanted to see his dad, and his dad is kind of like rejecting him. So ayun, I had to face that guy. And andun yung galit, andun yung uh, hurt. Yon. It's not easy. I don't think I'm fully healed. Pero compared with me 20 years ago with now, definitely much better. Much better. I can easily talk about it. I can easily, without having to like get into that anxiety attack thing. I can talk about it in a more comfortable matter. Yon. Yun ang masasabi ko. It's, pero yung healing, what do you think, Doc Shar? Parang bigla ako napunta on the spot. Ah. It's not easy. I don't think
Well,
it's not really fully healed, but it's there.
it's
The
there.
happiness is there. The friends are there to like really support and everything.
There are some wounds talaga it will take a lifetime to heal.
Yeah.
But ang importante is you keep on working on it. Right? And ang importante din, Pam, is meron ka ng peace.
Yon.
Peace. And you have forgiven yourself. Forgiving that your perpetrator is totally optional.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that is the high road. That is the ideal. But there are some wounds talaga na sobrang sakit na hindi mo kayang magpatawad. Pero importante, patawarin mo na ang sarili mo for getting in that kind of relationship, for being weak, for whatsoever, ganyan. Yun ang mas importante. And then it will overflow.
Yeah. I think that is true, Doc Shar. Kasi, the one thing that also opened up my eyes when it comes to forgiveness is the book by J.W. P.W. Young, Paul William Young, The Shack. I know it was made into a movie, but the movie is actually just a poor representation of the book itself because it really talks about forgiveness. Kasi yung story is about his daughter was a victim of a serial killer. He never really found the body of her of his daughter, and he was there, and he had an encounter with God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And there was this line there in the book that really impacted me so much, is that forgiveness is removing your hands from the neck of the person who had wronged you, so that you can be free from it. It's not freeing him from the hate, but it's freeing you from
Yes.
building that hate. And forgetting is another thing. It doesn't necessarily follow that when you forgive that person, you're already friends with that person. Again, it doesn't follow that way. Forgetting is another thing. So parang it's like saying there na, like, yung you parang, like, there was this instance in the book that God placed a bird on the hand of the guy, and parang if you try to pull your hand down all the time, every time that the bird wants to fly, the bird really can't fly, because you're pushing down instead of just letting it go, just like holding your hand and letting the bird go. It's the same with, with hate. It's the same with anger. It's the same with negative feelings. So parang that one really impacted me, na parang sabi ko, it's and unless I do this, unless I let go of the negative things, I won't be able to, prosper. And that happened at the very, like, alam mo yun, at the end na kami sa relationship din namin ng husband ko, right? We're at the tightest, ika nga. And I think that really paved the way for everything to be, flowing. Tama yung sinabi mo, Doc Shar. And at least there's someone here so confirming that, kasi it's hard. I think that's also one thing that most women are having a hard time dealing, whether it's yung, being able to, like, accept that some things happen for a reason, and they have to, like, accept that. Yun. And
And
ang
by
dami
the
pa.
way, sorry. And by the way, Pam, no, there's no such thing as forgetting.
Yeah.
There's no memory that you will forget,
Mm,
but you can accept.
yan. Di
Yun,
ba?
you can accept. Yan. Pero importante is forgiveness with yourself.
Yeah. It's actually not forgiving the assailant, eh. You have to forgive yourself first, eh, di ba? Di ba? So that's very, ano, wow.
Yes. And also, Doc, you're a trauma and abuse survivor, right?
Yes, po.
Um, can you tell us more about it? I mean, how did you became part of that abusive and trauma experience?
Or
Well,
able
I
to get
was,
out as well. Parang siguro ganun.
get out. Well, actually, uh, I was, para bang, binato ko na lang sa apoy. Parang pagkagising mo, ay, eto na pala yun. I didn't choose, but I was put in there. So I was abused when I was 6 years old, up to 14 years old, by people that is closest to me, and all forms of abuse, physical, no, emotional, verbal, and also sexual abuse. So on that age, no, specifically, and I got out there, no, during the, it stopped, actually it stopped when nagkakaisip ka na para bang, hey, hindi na to okay, no. This is not something na para bang you should be permitting, kasi nagkakaisip ka na eh. And
Mm-mm.
when you were that young, you don't know exactly what you're doing. So I always tell to women, now when you were abused during that time, or if you, let's say, engage into, let's say, um, uh, situation that is not appropriate during that time, I always tell that it's not your fault,
Mm-mm.
right? It is not your fault. Kasi ano bang alam mo? You're just a kid. Your brain is not yet fully developed to understand what is morally right and morally wrong.
Mm-mm.
Okay? So, now when I got out there, it stopped. Okay? Nung 14 ako, nung nakakaisip na ako. And there are some women, I actually read, they're even 30 years old, they're still there in that kind of situation. Because doon na sila parang
Wired?
na wired, no? Yun yung kinagisnan nila, 'di ba, yung na-mention ko before na yung if you saw violence at home, you will also repeat that. Kung hindi
Mm-mm.
ka nabigyan ng tamang pagmamahal nung lumalaki ka, hindi mo nakita yung healthy relationship. What's your benchmark when you get into a relationship?
Mm-mm.
So definitely it's a bad relationship. It's a bad choice, no? And at the same time you're young, you're exploring. So there. So when I started earning my own money, yung kaya ko na mag-rent, no?
Mm-mm.
That's the time that I got out.
Mm-mm.
Okay? But of course, I thought I've forgiven my perpetrator
Mm-mm.
because he changed. Okay, he changed for the better. And then when he died, I thought I was over it. I thought para bang nakawala na ako.
Mm-mm.
Okay na ako.
Mm-mm.
But I'm still having a hard time forming relationships. Tama ka dun pa mo, after 10 years, and then you met your husband, and then the manifestation, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for me, nagising na lang ako, why is my life falling apart? Career, the relationships, everything. And then when I was reviewing with regards dun sa trauma, naano ko lahat
Ah, oo.
ng boxes, check lahat ng boxes.
Ah,
So there, that's the time, yun, nag-seek na ako ng help before I start my practice.
so it's something that you really cannot say, eh, 'di ba? It would they some people thought kasi that the trauma of that will happen immediately after what happened before, but never realized that it can happen at the manifestation of the trauma can happen afterwards. In my case, it ano pa eh, it picked up after that eh. 'Di ba? Y- yun.
And
it's
actually,
really yes,
yes,
yes.
actually, Pam, it's compounding. Trauma is compounding. Buti na lang kung pera siya, no?
Oo.
Habang, but
Oo.
kasi life happens eh. Pain
Oo.
is inevitable. So if we didn't deal or process our previous pain,
Mhm.
then padagdag siya ng padagdag.
Mhm.
As what I said, there's no such thing as memory that you're going to forget. It's that you're just going to accept. Now, if you're having hard time accepting what had happened to you,
Mhm.
then doon nagkakaroon ng manifestations. Kasi you want to, the body remembers, your body remembers. That's it.
Yun. I think I would agree on that. The body remembers. You do something out of like play, you do something and then something happened, and that happened to me. It just triggered it. That pain that you felt, it would trigger back everything, and it will just wash you over like parang it's just yesterday that that trauma happened. And that some people do not understand that. They thought it was tagal-tagal na yan, hindi mo pa rin malimutan. Yun yung mga masasakit na parang it's easy for you guys to say because you haven't experienced that. Yun. And in that manner, I mean, if you are a friend or a relative or anyone who is, you have a friend who is just been traumatized, been abused into an abusive relationship, as a friend or as a relative, doc, what can you give them as tips on like what's the best way to approach these people who are experiencing the trauma or abuse in their life? Like post event, like for example, they just got over that relationship, nakahiwalay na or whatever situation that be. What would be your advice to them as support?
As support, number one is don't judge them,
Mm-mm.
right? Don't judge them because minsan kasi may mga sitwasyon tayo na we got caught up on that because as what I said, the body remembers.
Mm-mm.
Parang it's a compulsion. Same goes with addiction.
Mm-mm.
Okay? They want to get out of that, but their body is parang wired on that. Okay? So it's not to judge. And then second is support. Support them. Yung parang merong tao nandito para sa iyo. But of course, set your boundaries as well. Okay? Pag hindi mo kaya, it's all right. Tell
Mhm,
that to that person as respectful as you can. Kasi tao lang tayo eh.
mm.
Right? May mga bagahe din tayo.
Yeah.
Okay? And then encourage that person to seek, let's say, professional help. Kasi meron tayong capacity, pero tayong para bang limitations
Mm.
specifically. Kung hanggang saan lang yung matutulong natin. But being there is already enough.
As ano po, okay, like as a company, like handling a company with almost 100 or so employees, and then some of the employees may be encountering traumatic experiences or like whatever, we don't know, abuse at home. As a company, what would you recommend for us to be able to help these people, help employees in need? What would you recommend to companies?
To companies is at least staff mental health professionals
Mm-hmm.
that specialize on trauma and abuse. And I would also suggest that if you have a special group na para bang women who are, let's say, victims of abuse, victims of physical abuse or violence, na meron silang support group. Kasi when you know that you are not alone,
Mm-hmm.
nakaka-empower siya na hindi lang pala ako yung may pinagdadaanan na ganito. Okay? But of course, a blind cannot lead by the blind.
Yes.
So, ang importante there is someone who got them out of that and really understood,
Mm-mm.
right? Parang tumayong team leader or something. Pero of course, not to para bang magbigay ng therapy dun sa tao na yon.
Yeah,
It should be,
that's a
let's say,
different thing.
a different thing, a mental health professional. Pero mas maganda kung merong group
Mm-mm.
so that they empower each other.
Yeah, I think that's a very useful thing. And is there any right now at the moment with the situation here in the Philippines, Doc? Is there anything that yung bang what frustrates you with the situation here in our, we're not talking about the government in general, but how our country is responding to mental health? Is there something that you wish could have happened? Is there anything that you wish that our legislators or the president or any department that could hopefully ma-include nila yan sa sa agenda nila about mental health?
For me, it should start at home.
Mm-hmm.
When I say it should start at home is to teach the parents paano ba ang tamang pagpapalaki ng anak, okay? And at the same time, yung mga do's and don'ts, no,
Mm-hmm.
according to science, according to psychology, so that we don't pass the pain to our kids.
Hindi
Kasi
according
that's,
to TikTok.
ano po, sorry,
Yung hindi according to TikTok. No?
hindi siya according to TikTok, no? At least, uh, uh, ba tawag dito, backed by science,
Yes.
backed by, let's say, professionals that are really research dun sa developmental psychology. Paano ba
Yeah.
ang tamang pagpapalaki ng anak? So that's one. And then second is to, let's say, form groups,
Mhm.
okay, that, let's say, support women. I know there are this DSWD or something, but yung talagang merong group of people or women,
Mhm.
okay, that supports, let's say, victims of violence and victims of sexual abuse. Lalo na ang sexual abuse. Kasi it's something in the Philippines that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah. For some reason, they have this taboo talaga. Especially, and then they thought, and they thought, and I'm glad that I was able to talk to someone about it na sexual abuse doesn't just stay with couples lang who are unmarried, but even with married couples, because there are,
Yes.
yeah, diba? They thought that mag-asawa naman kayo eh. You're married, you should be doing that. But no, there's still pala a boundary to it. They thought it's okay to do everything, but no, you can't. Kasi may
Yes.
deviation yung iba, 'di ba? And the other partner isn't into that. So, 'di ba? How are you going to deal with it? So,
So,
ang hirap, 'di ba?
mahirap. Lalo na sa kultura nating Pilipino. But
Mm.
I'm glad that mental health is being accepted now. Being accepted and being talked about.
Mhm.
Correct.
And not just
Um,
about legal, 'di ba? Not just in a legal sense, but more on the scientific part of it. Yes, you, me dear.
talking about physical abuse po, kasi 'di ba, I think Kiko, passed, a bill na yung 'pag pinalo mo yung bata, it's gonna be a form of abuse already. So what is your standard? Kasi 'di ba we grew up na pinapalo tayo ng parents natin kasi we done something wrong, parang gano'n. But now, being that bill has already approved, parang form of abuse na yung pamamalo sa mga bata. So what is your stand there?
Well, ganito yan, Yumi, no? According to my professor, no, and at the same time, dun sa mga na-research ko, walang pinagkaiba ang pagbugbog mo sa asawa sa pagpalo mo sa anak. Walang
Yeah.
pinagkaiba yung implication yan. And when there is a physical abuse, there's always an emotional, not emotional, psychological impact on that.
Mhm.
Right? So parang kasi makulit yung bata, no? That's a kid.
Mhm.
Paano nila hinahandle yung stress nila by,
Right.
crying, tantrums, and all those things. Now, if you're an adult, if you know how to regulate your emotions, then you will show the kid paano ba ang pag-handle ng emotion. Right? Instead of papaluin para tumahimik, para wag ka na magsalita. So, kaya kalimitan ng mga sa atin ngayon, ang emotions natin repressed.
Yeah.
Okay? Bawal ka mag-show ng emotions. Kailangan matapang ka, kailangan ganyan or something. I get that. You have to be strong enough to stand on your own. But not
Mhm.
to the point of keeping it all in.
Yeah. And what can you say po about men? Men who are also abused but they are not aware that yun na yun. It's also there. It's also a form of abuse. Kasi, di ba lagi nasasabi, kayo lagi babae lang. Paano naman kami? And there are people who are doing that. What can you say about them? I mean, what can you advise them as
For
men?
men who are abused. Okay?
Oo,
Set boundaries. Okay?
that's right.
Kahit na, let's say, may conflict o meron kayong disagreement ng partner nyo, walang karapatang kayong dalawa, no, na i-disrespect ang isa't isa. So if the woman is already disrespecting the men, set boundaries. Tell to your partner, to your wife na, I understand you, but you don't have the right to do that to me. Step back, reflect, set boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay? Kasi things happen because we allow. Same goes with women, right? Things happen because we allow. And I do understand that you love the person or you feel something for that person. But as what I've said, you need to love and respect yourself first.
Mhm.
Sinasaktan ka na, kumakapit ka pa.
Yeah, and we just heard the recent news, 'di ba, about the starlet. I won't mention the name, but apparently was detained in their hotel room and apparently abused in that one. So parang 'di ba? And then yun nga. Meron din akong mga nalalaman na apparently they've been abused pero ayun nagkabalikan, nag-aanuhan and the three times minsan you would scratch your head and wonder, oh, akala ko ba you've been crying out, I've been abused, and then you went back to the guy. And then that falls into your category, Doc Shar, na sabi mo nga nun, that's something that you cannot do because that's already a choice. Tama?
And if you're already abused, seek help. Like
Mm,
really seek help.
yeah, yeah. That's I think that's the most important thing that has to do with. Doc, you have a no, 'di ba? You have a group that that you have this advocacy group. Can you tell us more about it? So para if there are women there who are listening right now watching our podcast, they be able to like seek your help and assistance, how to, reach out.
Okay, so my advocacy is really to reach out to women who are victims of abuse. Okay, and for them to really, not necessarily para bang heal, kasi healing kasi it really depends on the person. But
Mhm.
to neutralize or their trauma,
Mhm.
okay, and find wisdom behind their pain. So, I'm reaching out to those women who were victims of abuse, and even if kung matagal na yan, no, if it is still manifesting you, still causing you this distress and dysfunction, then seek help. And yes, I also have this, yung group ko sa Kapa, no? Sa Kapa, yung group, kasi I'm still, para bang checking the ethics, kasi it's
Uh-huh.
a group, sana, hopefully, in the future, that I'll be able to put up a group for women who are sexually abused,
Yeah.
for them to speak up, okay, and for them to really have this courage that they are not defined by their past. So yan.
Yeah.
I think Yumi attended last International Women's Day, di
Yeah.
ba? So yan.
Yes po, and
Uh,
very ano, I was moved by their stories.
Yeah.
Question pala, Doc, yung advocacy mo, is it limited only to women or to everyone else?
to everyone,
Wow, that's
to
good.
everyone.
And I hope matuloy na yan. And rest assured that Scale Experts will be supporting that advocacy group because that's important. It's a personal, it's something personal to me. Sabi ko nga sa'yo noon, Doc. And I hope matuloy yan because rest assured that Scale Experts will be behind that because we are promoting the company as a safe space as well, for everyone, not only for men, not only for women, but also for our LGBTQ community. So we wanted to like ensure everyone that this is a safe space, a safe company to work with without discrimination and that kind of abuse. Kasi they thought kasi when you say abuse, it's just physical, but 'di ba? Abuse and trauma
Maraming
are,
forms.
yeah, it has many forms, and unless women will be aware on these forms, they will fall prey, 'di ba? 'Di ba?
Yes.
So hopefully Doc will be able to pursue that because I think it's really important. Grabe, isang oras lang. We just had 1 hour, but that is such a profound experience for me and for I believe for everyone who's listening kasi they thought mental health is something that should be talked about within the limits of four walls, but it should be something that should be ano na, should be, it's not, you know, awareness is something that should be promoted lalo na ngayon. Lalo na ngayon. So I thank you so much, Doc Charlene, for your time, for your wisdom, and for helping us with that in ano this is too short for us. Sana I could invite you again for a larger audience that we have a Q&A because ano lang the participation of women sa society natin, the empowerment of women in our society is still ano pa, it still has a long way to go. And last question na lang po, Doc Charlene, how do you define an empowered woman coming from trauma or abuse? How would you define her?
uh, he, she already found wisdom behind her suffering and pain. And she's not afraid anymore to make a stand. And she's not ashamed of what had happened to her. Yeah. So that is an empowered woman.
Wow.
And
Galing.
also turning her pain into a blessing to others. That's the most important.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Thank
Miss
you
Pam,
so
are you an empowered woman?
definitely. Definitely, or else there would be no scale experts to begin with. Well, thank you so
Correct.
much, Doc Charlene, for that one. Again, I hope that we can invite you again. And thank you so much for those knowledge, those wisdom, those tips. Talagang it's very mind opening na it's a validation of, like me on a personal level, it's a validation na hindi talaga ako nag-iisa, and what we're doing, what we're treading on is so far the right path to healing. Thank you so much, Doc Charlene.
Maraming
Thank
salamat
you,
din
Doc
po.
Shirley.
Oo. And hopefully for all our is there any way that they can reach you nga pala? So ano lang, just in case someone would want to have a consultation with you, would like to ask you for your advice and to have a session with you, how do they reach you?
They can reach me through LinkedIn. And also, I have a Facebook page, which is Shardine Lucas, RPSY, that's our
Mhm,
site. They
mhm.
can also email me at Charlene Lucas, CHARLENE, okay,
Mhm.
LUCAS dot RPSY at gmail.com.
Alright, great, great. Ayan, so para 'pag may ano ka, 'pag meron session, sabihin namin, oh, ayan, go to Doc Charlene. She can definitely help you with that. Thank you so much, Doc Charlene. My God, 1 hour lang. But I
Yeah.
hope that we'll have another session soon and talk more about mental health and how to raise awareness about mental health. Thank you so
Maraming
much,
salamat
Doc
po.
Charlene.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Bye.
you, Miss Charlene. Okay, experts, thank you so much for tuning in. And it is really a substantial talk with Dr. Charlene Lucas. So for more videos, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Scale Experts. Bye!
Bye.